Welcome to another episode of our podcast. Today we are joined by Bini, who is an information security specialist at TD Bank on the cyber literacy and awareness team. With over 3 years in cybersec, a background in IT and application development, and certifications such as CISSP, CCSP, CCSK, she's built a strong foundation in the industry. Her move to Canada was a major turning point in her journey, as she told me before this call, learning not just how to survive in cybersecurity, but also how to thrive outside of her work in the theater aspect. By day, she helps strengthen the security at TD, and outside of work, she's actively involved in theater in Toronto. Let's dive into her story. Questions for you, Vinny. First one. Before cybersecurity was even on your radar, what were you like growing up? Were you always technical or did you have a creative interest early on?
Mm. Thank you, Anuj, for the full introduction. To start off, before I came to Canada and growing up, I was not core technical person as such. I was not the kind of person whose inclination was towards computers or something like that, as we see a lot of people have these days. But what I always was a very curious person.
Mhm.
What I always was a reader. I was heavily involved in sciences. I loved sciences. I loved understanding how things work, what goes on behind that. I still remember the time when my dad used to open up his toolkit for fixing things around the
Mm.
house, and I used to pick up a screwdriver
Mm.
and run behind him to teach me. Like,
Yep.
tell me what to do with this, how to fix this, how to do
Okay.
that. So I guess that is where my curiosity is what made me choose this life,
Mhm.
and my curiosity is where I've always led from.
Mhm.
So growing up I was a curious person, a reader and a
Great.
learner.
Hmm.
I love to write and read, so that was my background.
Okay.
There is always a little bit of a creative element.
Hmm.
There was always this little bit of holistic side to it, because my mother, growing up as a woman in
Hmm.
India, I
Hmm.
was also always pushed to pursue arts and learn
Hmm.
more about it. So I learned dancing, I
Yep.
learned painting,
Hmm.
all of these things, and that kind of really helped me become a more well-rounded person. And that is essentially what my journey has been like
Okay.
before I moved to Canada.
Gotcha. Amazing. Amazing to hear that. Second question. You said moving to Canada was your turning point in life. What were the biggest professional and personal challenges you had to survive during that phase?
When I moved to Canada, uh, one of the first things that I personally struggled with was coming from a joint family. I moved to a life of just one person.
Mm.
I was not really used to not having people in my vicinity
Mhm.
or not having community around me.
Mm. Mm.
I know growing up in India, it felt like a lot of pressure, or that might have felt like constant surveillance.
Of course.
But ironically enough, that was the thing I missed
Oh,
here
I
the
see.
most,
Okay.
because the silence was a little too much
Mm.
here,
Mm.
and it took
Mm.
me a while to get adjusted to even sleeping in a room by myself
Mhm.
and tiny things like that. We
Gotcha.
always talk about the
Mm.
weather was
Yep.
another hit, and I think everyone can relate
Yep.
to it, especially coming from Mumbai
Yep.
myself, where it's always sunny and
Hmm.
the weather is always good. It
Yep.
never gets like to the extremes that much. It was always
Yep.
a thing. That was one of the challenges. And professionally speaking, I was essentially starting from scratch,
For sure.
because before coming here,
Hmm.
I had a job back in India, which I
Mm.
left to pursue studies.
Okay.
I have always, like I said, curiosity also
Mm.
leads to over analyzing and
Yeah.
overthinking.
Hmm.
And I eventually learned that I need to channelize that into a more positive aspect.
Got it.
And that's why I chose to study business analysis, because
Okay.
I had a little bit of an understanding of
Hmm.
where that comes from,
Hmm.
and why do I want to do these things were
Hmm.
more important than how do I get these things done.
Okay.
So starting from scratch at that level, studying those things, it's also a field which is a very generic field.
Okay.
It can go in either direction, right?
Right.
Like
Right.
you can
Right.
end up in a business space, or you
Yeah.
can end up in a hospital, or wherever you
Mm.
want.
Mm. Mm.
But understanding what fits that box of what I am looking for
Mm.
was a very big professional challenge when it
Okay.
came to going out and finding the right jobs for me.
Got it. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. So basically, your background was in IT. then you were doing application development, you had a job in India, and you left all of that to come to Canada, essentially for business analytics. But again, once you landed here, had to pivot to cybersecurity. So, what felt overwhelming in the beginning, and what was your journey like before you got your current job? Meaning, you had to go through a process, you had to get networks in your hand. You need to know people, or you need to have some referrals. You need to keep applying for jobs on the job portal, LinkedIn, Indeed, put up your resume in a particular way so you stand out among the crowd. What did you do differently to crack into this industry in Toronto, which is highly competitive over the last 4 years? The amount of immigration that has pulled in a lot of candidates who are talented here. What did you do differently to stand out and crack into it?
So, for me, one of the biggest things was that when I came here, I never ever lost sight of why I was here. Despite the challenges I was facing, and I think most of us who come here, we are in survival mode where we have to kind of pay off our student loans or send money back.
Hmm.
So, even while I was doing my part time job, even while I was doing all of these things,
Hmm.
one thing which I remember doing very differently from my peers at that
Hmm.
point was that when the moment they came here, they started exploring ways to go out, have fun, enjoy what Canada is, which is
Hmm.
necessary in its own
Hmm.
way. But what kept me on track was that I was like, okay, I need to remember why I'm here and
Hmm.
get
Hmm.
that sorted, because
Hmm.
there is always going to be more time to explore that aspect. So
Yep.
that was a big mindset thing which I had coming in here.
Hmm.
The
Hmm.
other thing was that I tried to do things before time.
Hmm.
So there was a recommendation, like my last semester here was supposed to be my co-op term,
Okay.
but since two terms before I had started applying for jobs.
Oh, I see.
Since
Okay.
2 terms before I had started going out looking at what are the
Hmm.
opportunities available,
Hmm.
where can I do, and everything I came across.
Hmm.
I might have applied to like 100 plus internships when I
Hmm.
started
Oh,
off.
wow.
And I
Okay.
did that all before my semester in which I was
Graduation. Okay.
supposed to study,
Okay.
how to create a resume begin. I
Oh, I
had done
see.
all of this before that.
Okay.
So
Got it.
anything that happened after that was kind of just finessing it.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
And when it comes to the resume, I highly leaned on my experience,
Hmm. Hmm.
because I was at every point of time, I was making sure I'm not positioning myself just as somebody who is a newcomer.
I see. Okay.
Even though I was a newcomer,
Hmm.
my competition here was with graduates who had like
Hmm.
4 internships in their
Hmm.
bag.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
I
Hmm.
was I was not going to be measured differently just because I was an immigrant. They don't know
Got it.
that. So what I made sure, and this is a big part in your
Hmm.
resume, is about how you position yourself.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I made sure I always positioned myself as somebody who knew what they were doing.
Hmm.
Like
Hmm.
talking about the projects,
Hmm.
talking about, oh, the past work that we have done.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yes, sometimes a lot of students come in and they haven't had that experience.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
then I would suggest create your own opportunities.
Hmm.
And what I mean by that is there are endless number of hackathons going on, endless
Hmm.
number of challenges going on,
Got it.
endless
Hmm.
conferences
Hmm.
going on.
Hmm. Hmm.
Go out, create your own products, and sell it yourself.
Hmm.
You can put that on your resume as well
Of
and
course.
showcase
Yep. Hmm.
that you have the capability to handle something end
Hmm.
to end.
Hmm.
It
Hmm.
is a huge selling point for who are
Got it.
hiring you. So
So,
that was a big,
hmm.
that was like a big thing which I
Okay.
did
Okay.
in practical tips. Yeah.
Got it. So, what was the first internship like for you? How did you land that? Among these 100 applications you did, how many internship interviews did you land? How did you
So
get that first one?
So, out of those 100 that I did, I was very fortunate enough to hear back from TD quite soon after I
Oh,
had
wow. Okay.
applied for it. The thing is, they got back to me,
Hmm.
and I think in that term they were hiring quite a lot of
Okay.
interns.
Okay.
And I had a meeting with the HR, and I had a
Okay.
meeting because my role was a business analyst role. My
Okay.
role was not a cybersecurity role.
Okay.
I had a meeting with the HR. They took a
Okay.
behavioral sort of
Hmm.
interview,
Like a star
and then
technique one?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, because as a business analyst, they wanted to understand what my mindset was like
Mm,
and what my
mm,
approach was like.
mm,
So one of the questions they asked me, and this
mm,
might seem very strange, and I'll always remember this, is
mm,
if you had to paint a room,
mm,
what questions would you ask? That was the question that they asked me in my interview.
Mm,
Because as a
okay.
business analyst, what they are trying to gauge is how well do you understand what business requires? How well
Nice.
do you
Yep.
understand what your business requirements
Requirements
are?
are.
It was not about the tool.
Yep.
It was not about the technique. And we
Technical.
live in this world today
Mm,
where you can
mm.
just Google things
Good.
and find it on Chat GPT and
Even
get the
YouTube is a good
technical.
training ground for anything nowadays, right?
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. YouTube as well. Like you can just Google, find it, and implement it. It's not
Yep.
that difficult.
Hmm.
But why you are doing it and
Hmm.
knowing that is
Mm.
really important. And that's what
Makes
they were
sense.
looking for.
Okay.
Even after that, and then they took some time to do the background check and all of
Hmm.
that and then get back to me.
Okay.
But even in that duration, I kept applying.
Okay.
I
Okay.
kept applying to other internships and every internship. And
Okay.
honestly, I probably heard back from like two from
Okay.
all the 60 to 70 I had applied.
Oh.
I got rejections like
Yeah.
4 months later
Okay.
saying that, oh, you have not been selected.
Yeah.
And that's quite common practice, which I
Right.
realized here later on.
Hmm.
But that was very scary. That was
Yeah,
a
it
very
is.
scary time
It is.
because not knowing what is
Hmm.
coming. Because I
Yeah.
was also doing my part time job working at
Hmm.
a restaurant,
Mm.
doing the same thing that we all do when we come
Yep.
here. And I had bills to pay, so I was
Yeah.
also worried about what will happen next.
Okay.
So it was quite a stressful time, but just keep doing. Like
But
a lot of
you
people
did it.
ask
Yeah,
me,
I mean, no, this is
yeah.
good. Your journey is amazing, like how you landed it, how you stood out, how you answered those questions. Like the question itself is a big, it was an eye opener for me. They could ask such a question in an interview, but good to know. After the internship, now how did you leeway or how did you find way into cybersecurity? I'm still wondering how you did it.
So that was one thing because before I joined, I had mentioned, right, like I had worked back in India as an application development analyst.
Hmm.
I had a background of cloud.
Okay.
In my previous role, I was working as a MuleSoft developer,
Hmm.
and in that, I worked closely with cloud. So the team that I was placed in, based
Hmm.
on that, was related to cloud.
Okay.
So the cloud security aspect.
Okay.
Now, when I went into my job every single day as an
Okay.
intern,
Hmm.
I did not operate as an intern.
Okay, you were operating
Again,
at the same work level you were
I
at
was
doing.
I was operating as like, oh, I already work for this
Okay.
team. I'm a part of this team.
Hmm. Hmm.
Tell me what you need me to do.
Got
I
it.
was all That is one practice I have consistently
Hmm.
followed
Hmm.
throughout my time is show up as the role you want to be in,
Yeah.
not as the role you currently are in. Because everybody else is showing
Yeah.
up as the role they
Good.
currently are in.
Yeah, you have
And
to
you
show up
are there.
as. Hmm. Hmm. No, I totally agree
And
with
you
you.
are
Yeah.
Yeah, and you are there as an intern. There will be a lot of these times where you will have no idea what they're talking about.
Hmm.
Because in cybersecurity, especially in cloud security, there are a lot of
Yeah.
jargons.
Yeah.
And the people I was working with were 15 years into the industry,
Hmm.
20 years into the industry.
Yeah.
So the kind of decisions that they were making
Yeah.
involved a lot of back end work on my end.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
had to
Hmm.
spend a lot of extra hours beyond my working time to understand what
Hmm.
they were talking about,
Yeah.
first of
No,
all.
makes sense. So it can be intimidating at first, but
Yes.
my other question to you was how did you stay resilient and understand or get over the imposter syndrome that you might be going through while you're trying to get into cybersecurity because you're dealing with people who are having decades of experience and you're going in and barging into an industry where you have never set foot in. What was that
Yes.
like?
So when you are doing that, it's quite a discovery process.
Mm,
One thing which is, like I said, again, I lean back into this curiosity has been my biggest strength.
for sure.
The good
Yeah.
thing about cybersecurity is that there is endless
Yeah,
possibilities.
of course.
You can be whatever you want to choose to be, you can do that. I was in the team where I was interning for one person, but
Mm,
at the same time, I had insight into what every team underneath them was doing. So, understanding the details of
mm,
network security or crypto or
mm,
cloud infrastructure,
mm,
understanding the policy,
mm.
standards, all of these things. These are more technical jargons about
Yeah.
cybersecurity, but understanding all of these elements, I used to proactively reach out to the manager of each team and go like, oh, do you have a task for me,
Mm,
do you have a task for me?
mm.
Because getting one hand on task meant you understood what
To,
their process looked like.
exactly.
And that on the job training was a
Mm,
huge part of it. And
got
that
it.
was also the reason I decided to be in cyber,
Mm,
because
mm.
I would never run out of things to learn about.
Mm,
That
mm,
is one thing. And the
mm.
other thing is that you will never, it's, we live in a world which is constantly evolving. We live in a world where you bring in AI, you bring
Mhm.
in, no matter what the world changes into, security is always going to be important.
Sure.
It's always going to be a
Yep.
part of the process,
Mm,
and we
mm.
are more and more moving towards it. So having that understanding came from knowing all of these different aspects,
Okay. Okay.
and from there on I kind of, that is how I dealt with my imposter syndrome
Got it.
too. It was
No,
just
which
do
makes
it,
sense. You have no
question.
other way, right?
Yeah,
You're put
exactly.
into it, then you once how there is a saying, right? You can't learn swimming without jumping into the pool, right? So that's
Exactly.
one way to do it. You put in the hours, the effort, and then you reap the rewards in the end.
Yes.
And I'm glad you did it. So did you have an interview before you got converted as a full time into cybersecurity, or was that like an automatic hiring there? What was the
So,
process internally?
so because of my performance as an intern, they wanted to extend my role as an intern.
Okay.
Because, but unfortunately, they had some restrictions and they could not do that. So
Okay.
instead, they offered me an associate role in the same team.
Okay.
So for that, I did not have to interview because my manager was the hiring manager and my manager
Okay.
was working with me, so they knew.
Okay. So it's the same
But
team. Okay.
there was
Mm.
another interview which I had to give
Mm.
once I was kind of transitioning over to a
Sure.
full-time member of the team.
Okay.
I
Okay.
I was subconsciously being interviewed by every team person because it was
Obviously,
not
they're all.
a,
Mm.
yeah, it was
Throughout the
not a direct
journey, how
interview.
many months was it? Was it like 3 months, 6 months, the internship?
The internship was 4 months.
4 months.
Uh,
Mm.
and I remember at that time, our senior leader, SVP, he
Mhm.
took us out for lunch
Okay.
and he was asking me so many questions.
So I guess
Now
they're
I
already
know that is
interviewing you
kind of an
during that
interview.
process.
Exactly. Now I know that is kind of an interview,
Yeah.
trying to understand
And
what,
you,
how do you
yeah,
work, what do you operate like.
exactly. Can they
But
work well with you in the future? Everything, they're judging everything from all angles, right? At that point.
exactly.
Yeah.
So a
Okay.
lot of people think that,
Yeah.
like, this is one thing I have seen. A lot of people shy away from interacting with the higher ups at
Mm.
such a level.
Mm.
Like when you enter as an intern, I would say do it. Go show up, because that plays a huge role. If they remember your face, the next time there's an opportunity, they'll think of
Really?
you,
Yeah.
even if you're not there. And this is the unconventional way to do it. Like this is the
Exactly.
networking part that we talk about.
Yeah.
Show up, show your face to enough people so that when an opportunity comes up, they
Comes
think
up,
about
they
you.
remind you. Exactly. You have to put
Exactly.
yourself in many places as much as possible, and
Exactly.
something might strike, right? All
Yep.
right. So that's an amazing journey from what I can hear from you so far. And thank you for sharing this with us. Now, beyond work, let's talk about that, right? Theater and confidence. You're involved in theater in Toronto. I felt it was very interesting that somebody is doing something besides work and somebody in theater, which is very new to me. I want to know, how did you start with performing on stage or becoming a theater manager that you said you are doing currently? What is the possibility of a career in this field in the future for somebody who's aspiring to be in this field in Toronto or coming to Canada? What are the things you can talk to us about your whole journey outside of work, right? Which I feel is the thriving part of your life from what I can see. Please feel free to explain as much as possible for the audience.
Yeah. So during my time when I started off, all of this part which I was talking about was related to me finding means to survive and
Hmm.
finding means to, just set my poles in to create the life I wanted to create.
Hmm.
And when I started thinking about things beyond work, because at some point these things got settled for me, I knew how to operate in my career and I started going ahead.
Hmm.
I also started looking at my life as what do I want out of my life. And when I said that, I want, it was more of a holistic thing. It's not just career, it's about that balance,
Hmm.
finding what fulfills my soul, but at the same time, you got to pay the bills, right? So I
Yep.
was looking and traveling to, I traveled across like Canada quite a bit to try to understand what brings me joy, what makes me happy.
Hmm.
And one of the things I landed on was I realized that art makes me really happy, art in all forms. And once I realized that outside of work, I started indulging into more artistic pursuits, be it writing, doing open mics, interacting with artists, so
Hmm.
on and so forth. And I just kept talking to people. Same approach that I did in my day job was
They
the same thing I did there,
outside of work.
which was
Hmm.
kind of like I was just reaching out to people,
Mm.
meeting more curious, like
Mm.
minded people,
Hmm.
and seeing what they had to say
Okay.
about seeing what they had to say about life. And then similarly, somebody asked me if I wanted to perform on stage, and I had something written.
Okay.
I write poetry,
Oh,
so
nice.
I just went on stage and I performed it.
Oh, wow.
And
Straight
they were
away.
very impressed. Yeah, they
Okay.
were kind of impressed by that ambition that I took. I also kind of volunteered at
Mm.
a lot of theater festivals to
Okay.
just surround myself with that. And from that point, they asked me if I wanted to help be a stage manager or
Okay.
help run productions. And I was
Hmm.
like, yeah, why not?
Okay.
And that's essentially how I started.
Okay.
And I delved into that side of me. I something outside of work when I do not, like, I live alone here. I don't
Hmm.
have a family here that sustains my life,
Yep.
because gives me an opportunity to put my time towards things I love outside of work.
Makes
And that's
sense.
the best part about being in Canada, is that,
Hmm.
and having great managers who understand this work life balance, that
Yep.
you can dedicate time to your to having a life outside of
Outside of
work.
work. Yeah.
So
No,
so
that's
I was able to do
absolutely
that.
amazing, right? I have heard stories of people who don't have this. They work 12 to 14 hours or 15 hours. In North America or Europe, I see this that there is a fixed time, right? After 5 or after 6, you could shut off and do your own thing. I mean, depending on the level you're operating at each business, but depending on the career level. But it's absolutely amazing we're able to have that work-life balance in terms of you want to do something outside of work, you're able to pursue it, and there are opportunities to do so in Toronto, right? Which
Yes.
people are not
Yeah.
aware of. And that's what I wanted to bring to the audience as well. And just one last question about the same piece. Like, what is the possibility of a career in this field in Toronto? Is it high paying, or is it like you have to put in some money of your own at the beginning? But is there aspects to where you can be successful without your primary job or your day job? Can somebody
Yeah.
transition it into that fully?
So that is a very good question, and I'm quite in the process of understanding that, right?
Okay.
Because if you look back on my journey as an engineer and a professional, at this
Hmm.
point, I have had an education of 4 years, and then I've worked for 2 years, and now I've worked for 3 more years. I have had like 5 plus years of experience, and if you count my education, it's like 10 plus years I have been in this field,
Hmm.
and then I am here. And I
Hmm.
think every field you are in, it requires you to put in those times, and
Hmm.
that holds true for theater to some extent, not the
Yeah.
same way it would hold true to engineering.
Hmm.
But I believe that I myself am just exploring and learning a lot of this space. I have a lot to learn in this space to kind of even transition as a
Hmm.
career. But
Hmm.
speaking of career opportunities, unfortunately, it's one of those jobs where I would not say it's like a safe job,
Okay.
but that is the world of arts. Considering the situation
Hmm.
the world is in, the rules that we are seeing changing,
Yep.
the policies that people are coming up with,
Hmm. Hmm.
it is becoming very difficult every day to be
Hmm.
an artist as well.
Okay.
I have some personal experience from my, like, back home. My sister
Hmm.
is an artist,
Hmm.
so it has never been an easy job. But if you are in Toronto and if you are looking for theater opportunities and
Hmm.
if you want to start, the best place to start would be start doing community theater.
Hmm.
The
Okay.
role is the same. You kind of have to meet people, you have to show your face, you have
Hmm.
to be in shows, you have to show up in
Hmm.
places at the right place at the right
Right
time.
time.
The show, yeah, the theater is a lot about that,
Okay.
right place, right time. But you keep doing that. The people I have had the opportunity to work with outside of my organization, they are professional actors. They
Hmm.
went to college for 4 years.
Mm.
All of
Okay.
these people, they have like post grad education. There
Oh,
are people
wow.
here who came from India to study acting and
Oh,
theater,
wow.
and they're trying to make their life here as well. I have a very close friend of mine who is
Mm.
doing that. So
Okay.
it is definitely not an easy journey,
Okay.
but it requires a lot of fuel. You
Got it.
have to have fuel to be in that.
Mm. Mm.
Um, And if you make it big.
You make
So
it
it's a
really
high
big.
risk, yeah, it's a
Okay.
high risk, high
High
reward kind
reward
of
game. Yeah.
situation.
Okay.
But you also have to remember why you're doing it.
No,
Like my
absolutely.
purpose for doing
Hmm.
it is very different than why somebody else would be doing it.
Hmm.
And I think knowing that and approaching it like that makes a huge difference too.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Binny, for sharing that theater story with us. One last question, but it's related to cybersecurity. For someone early in cybersecurity journey in Canada who have come to do their masters or even a diploma course, whatever it may be, PhD, you name it. What's one thing they must focus in order to survive and land a job in this market currently?
Okay. So I think there's a twofold approach to this. Um, First thing is there are tons of cybersecurity conferences happening out there, cyber
Mm,
hackathons happening out there. As a student, go and participate in every conference, every hackathon you can,
mm,
because you have the privilege of being a student.
yep.
That means you can make mistakes. That means people don't expect anything from you and you are there to learn. You
Mm,
abuse that title as much as you can. I am just a
exactly.
student. So just
Yep.
like learn as much as you can,
Yep.
because when you attend conferences and hackathons, you are making connections which you would not usually make in your own circle.
Exactly.
That is one piece of it. And it's really important. The
Yep.
second is focus on what is the most relevant skill set right now.
Mm,
To get in, you will, unless you have the opportunity to crack in through another avenue, like you were a
mhm,
business analyst and you came and all of that, unless you are doing that, if you start as a fresher,
mhm.
the opportunities can be very thin for
Okay.
somebody in cybersecurity, because they usually look for professional like
Mm.
experienced
Makes
individuals
sense.
basically.
Makes sense.
So how can you contribute as a fresher? As a fresher, you can contribute with your new ideas or with net, like understanding the basics,
Yep.
understanding and doing the technical implementation of the things that they're telling you to make.
Mm, mm, mm.
So there are ways like a technical implementation related thing, understand the concepts and the securities of
Yep.
networking, basics, stuff around that. Then you can also go into understanding regulations
Yep.
and
Very important.
understanding
Standards.
audit,
Mhm,
compliance,
mhm.
these aspects. Because
Yep.
if you understand those standards and audit, there is another avenue in cybersecurity which is around governance, which you
Mhm.
can become a part of.
Yep.
And then from an operational perspective, if you are somebody who is like, oh, I'm the kind of person who will sit in my room on with that hoodie on and
Mhm.
try to identify who is hacking the system.
Yep.
If you're that kind of a person, then there are courses like Certified Ethical Hacker, which
Yep.
is more from an operational day to
Mhm.
day front line kind of a thing.
Yep.
As a beginner, I think these are the skills you need to
Mhm.
build up,
Yep.
and then you eventually get to understand why you are building these up.
Exactly. Yep.
But that will help you crack in. So
Mhm.
keep doing both of these,
Yep.
because it goes hand in hand. You can't just sit in a you can't afford to
Exactly.
just sit in a room,
No.
not interact with
And
anyone and keep upskilling anymore. That doesn't work. It
exactly.
used to, but now
But not anymore. Yeah.
not anymore. Like you are
Yeah.
being replaced by AI every day.
Yeah.
So you have to keep your humanness alive to show what value you bring
You
to the
bring to
table,
the
which
table.
AI cannot.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. As a cybersecurity professional myself, I wanted to also add in a little bit of pieces. When you said certified ethical hacker, if there are ways in which you can participate in hackathons like red teaming exercise or blue team exercises, where you're actually doing offensive attack and then you have a defensive mechanism with the blue teams, if you're able to simulate such environments or even at a sandbox level and showcase that as your project or your talking point when you come to interviews, that itself is a big deal. Even threat modeling or risk assessment summaries, how do you come up with these, right? What is a CVE? What is a vulnerability? And so on. Just to add as a background information to, like, if somebody is actually planning to come into cybersecurity, then something to think about, learn, adapt to the new technologies, and have some personal projects on the side, which will be very impressive during interviews as well. All right. So maybe as a closing remark, Bini, thank you so much for sharing your journey with us today. what really stands out is that cybersecurity isn't just about technical skills or certifications, but it's about resilience, adaptability, finding your own identity in your own field. You have several departments that you can actually go into within cybersecurity. Your story shows that surviving the early challenges, moving countries, coming from a joint family, and then coming here alone and then making a life for yourself. It's amazing to see your journey. You changed roles from a business analyst to cybersecurity, and you also had a background in development back in India, but pushing through self doubt, part of the process. But thriving comes when you build confidence in community and also a life outside of work, I guess. Then strengthening your human side of security at TD to performing on stage as a stage manager here in Toronto. You've shown that you have chosen between technical excellence and creativity. You can build both essentially. And to everyone watching, focus on surviving the hard seasons, but don't forget to design the life where you can thrive, like Binny has done. And thanks for tuning in. We will see you in the next episode. And any last comments from you, Binny?
Just one thing, a lot of people come in thinking that this is just the only way, or as a beginner you
Mm,
sometimes get stuck in that loop of, oh, I don't know how to do this, or I don't know
mm,
how to get through this or get past this. But all I can say is the only way out is through it.
mm.
You have to keep doing it and it eventually will crack. It is like that, they say you can hit one rock 1,000 times and it won't break, but that one
One,
time you hit it and it can crack, right?
absolutely,
so
yes.
so anybody who is struggling right now considering the economy, I just want to say, don't give up, keep trying, because all you need is that one opportunity and the rest you will figure it out. So
Absolutely.
that is my closing notes. And yes, I loved how you ended it. Do
Yeah.
not forget to design the life you want to live,
Mhm.
because you will survive, you will make through it, and on the other side, it will definitely be much better.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot again, Binny.
Thank you.
And thanks everybody for joining in today. We'll see you in the next episode. Bye.
Bye.